What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 30 of the Hoop Venue podcast. My name is Tyler, and as always, I'm joined by my great friend, Sean. Look, I know what you're thinking. Yes, I got a new camera. Yes, I look phenomenal. I know. You don't got to tell me that. Sean already told me off camera, or off recording, how phenomenal I'm looking today.
All right, pause.
How great the new camera is. No, in all seriousness, we've taken about a week off. Sean has been in the depths of high school basketball, coaching his team to a potential state championship, losing his voice like Doc Rivers. This man's going through it all, but we had to squeeze another podcast in here. And yeah, man, how you feeling, Sean? How you feeling about the last week of not only the NBA, but your coaching career?
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun losing my voice like twice in 2 weeks, basically. But yeah, have the NBA stuff going on, high school playoffs going on, and then excited for the ramp up over this next month.
Yes, man. I've been having a blast. I think February was probably my best month in the last really year of covering the NBA in terms of not only consistency with content, but like enjoyment in the basketball being played. The NBA is in a phenomenal place right now, and there's just so much going on that's so fun. And where I want to start the conversation is with Jimmy Butler and the Warriors. If you haven't been paying attention, the Warriors are 7-1 with Jimmy Butler in the lineup. Actually, is he playing? Did he play tonight?
Yeah, they're up 17.
Yeah, he did. So they are up 20 on the Hornets with 5 minutes left. So we can just assume they're 8-1. They're 8-1 with Jimmy Butler in the lineup. And I knew it was kind of a slam dunk fit, right? Like Jimmy's the type of player that with the off-ball defense, with his ability to screen and roll, his cutting, his extra passing, the shot creation he offers in isolation. I expected the fit to be good. I didn't expect it to be this transformative, and I think I'm kind of at a point where I almost wonder, was Steph Curry doing like the quiet protest? Because the moment Jimmy Butler gets into the roster, because we kind of had this discussion. We were talking about like Steph kind of looks like he's tapering off a little bit. Like the efficiency started to get a little weird. He just wasn't shooting for a lot of stretches of games. Like there was a Kings game where they were blitzing and he wasn't even looking for a shot until like 1 minute left in the game and they lost. And then Jimmy gets there and it's like, okay, here's 56, Orlando. You can't guard me.
Yeah.
Here's 37. Here's 33. What have you liked about the Warriors since adding Jimmy Butler?
I think with adding Jimmy, and I think I maybe just underrated the Jimmy acquisition a little bit for a couple of reasons. One, defensively, bro, they just have like two of almost in any scenario like the two smartest defensive players on the floor, like regardless of situation. Two over communicators. And then Jimmy's still a good like on-ball defender too, and things of that nature. And they have they just replaced Andrew Wiggins with Jimmy Butler. So like you're fine defensively. I think the way he cuts, like you said, and the way he's able to play off Steph, but then at the same time, how he's able to create for Steph and just legitimately be a guy that can. I mean, we talked all year long. This is one of the reasons why we liked the Dennis Schroeder trade at the time, even though that did not pan out. Just having anybody else on the roster, anybody that could have some semblance of shot creation. And we've seen the Warriors, specifically Jimmy, now be able to get to the rim. They're getting to the line more because of guys like Jimmy. I don't know the last time we've consistently seen the Warriors take 23 free throws in the game. They took 23 free throws so far tonight. I mean, since Jimmy's been here, he's like a consistent. I mean, since getting acquired by Golden State, he's averaging 7.5 free throws a game. And that's like including a random game against the Hornets where he only had one free throw attempt. So the rim pressure, the simple self-creation ability, the cutting it, just the IQ pair next to Steph and Draymond is something that I think I just underrated because of the situation that Jimmy was in prior to arriving to Golden State. And I think they're 6th in the West now. So I had to fact check that, but it's been a great fit. I will say, peeling the curtain back just a little bit, or not. I think that's the wrong saying, but gonna sound like a hater for 2.3 seconds. I need to see him play a real team. They have had a cupcake ass schedule, and I don't think don't want to sound like a hater. I think that's just an objective fact. They beat the Mavs. I'm sorry, they lost to they beat the Mavs.
They lost.
But
they lost to the Mavs. That
they
was their
lost
one
to the
loss.
Mavs once, and
Yeah.
then they beat the Mavs with no AD. Then there were other wins: Houston, okay, Sacramento, Charlotte twice now, Orlando lost to Philly. Like,
Yeah.
we got to play somebody
Although
a
I
little
will
bit
say
more
Jimmy
serious.
didn't play in the Philly game, so I
Jimmy
do
did
think
play
that
in Philly.
it's important to know. The Orlando win was big in my opinion, just because Orlando actually Paolo looked like beginning of the season Paolo with his aggression, attacking, looking for contact. He had that mean poster in the first quarter, and I actually thought that Warriors game or that Magic game was a big playoff test type of game. I watched that back for a Steph Curry video, and because he had 56, the guy's a monster. But they made all sorts of little minor tweaks on the margins that to me show like this roster is very versatile. For example, Orlando was hedging all of the ball screens with the big.
Which historically, and I haven't like gone back to watch the film from that game, but historically, you said the word hedge. I almost had a mental breakdown talking about hedging Steph Curry. That's a massive no historically. My bad. Please continue.
What if I told you it worked?
Okay.
And maybe that's just because Orlando has crazy personnel, or it was because the Warriors are often like Draymond was the 5, so he was the screener, and then it was Jimmy or GP2 in the corner. And then it's like, okay, now we're going to cheat way over, like kind of what the Lakers do, where it's like we're going to abandon the corner. We're going to only worry about the pick and roll. And so Wendell Carter was hedging. Whoever was the low man, I think it was Franz. Typically, Franz would cheat way over, and they would basically let Steph skip it to that non-shooter. And Golden State shot like 3 of 16 from 3 in the first half. It just did not work. So you know what the Warriors did? They used GP2 or Jimmy as the screener, because then the Magic were going to switch. They were going to switch. And then it was, okay, either Steph can attack in isolation, he can either pull up over the soft switch, or they're going to slip the screen and create a quick 4-on-3. Okay, then they made another adjustment. They said, okay, we're going to not have Steph handle the ball at all. We're going to exclusively run him off of pin downs and curl screens. And then that's when he had like 25 points in the third quarter. It was all just curl screens and pin downs moving into threes. And then it was like, okay, they just showed that they're just going to make all these minor tweaks. Also, defensively, like I said, Paolo was going off in the first quarter. First half, really. He had like 25 in the first half. Remember, Draymond was playing the 5. You know what they did?
Put
They
Draymond on
Quentin
Paolo.
Post they started Quentin Post in the third, and then moved Draymond to the 4 and said, Draymond, you only guard Paolo.
Yeah.
And then Paolo was a non-factor the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And then I was like, so it's like they do these little tweaks, and it shows the versatility of the roster. By the way, Kuminga has yet to play a single game with Jimmy.
I forgot about that.
And it's like dude, they've got a squad. I still, someone was asking me today if I think they're a contender. I do not, and I think it's just because I think they really do lack two-way depth when you stack them up against a lot of these other teams. Like, the only guys on the roster I'm comfortable calling two-way players, probably just Jimmy Butler, right? Like, in terms of you are a clear positive on offense and you're a clear positive on defense. I think Jimmy's the only guy that really fits that mold on the team right now.
Yeah.
And history tells us you need quite a few of those guys. Like, you look at Cleveland, Mobley and Allen, DeAndre Hunter at this point. Maybe even Ty Jerome. Yeah, I was gonna say. Boston, their entire rotation, pretty much.
Basically.
OKC, same thing. Pretty much their entire rotation. So it's like I do think historically you do need to have a lot of those two-way guys, and that's kind of the one limiting thing for me with Golden State. But also they kind of break that mold because they have the one all-defense guy and the one all-offense guy, to where it kind of like works. I don't know. I think right now where I'm at, and I'm curious where you're at after my little spiel.
Mm-hmm.
I think their ceiling right now is a conference finals appearance, and I think their floor is a first round exit, barring the matchup.
Yeah, I can kind of get behind that. Okay, let me ask you this: who do you think is the worst / best matchup for them?
I think OKC is pretty easily the worst matchup. And that's just because their talent level is so high. Like, that's pretty much most of the West. I also think Dallas, it would be a really bad matchup for them, and it's just because of the size and versatility.
Yeah.
You can switch everything on Steph, and you're going to maul them on the glass and in the paint because they just don't have the size. Like, I like Quentin Post. He's looked really good, but he is pretty slow-footed, and then you're relying on him to guard either Gafford or AD. Like, Draymond would definitely be on AD, but, like, Quentin Post would have to cover a lot of space. And then you'd have to fight on the glass with Washington, AD, and Gafford. I just think it would be like an overmatched size and athleticism thing. But in terms of favorable matchups, like Houston, I think they pretty easily.
Yeah.
I think they pretty easy. I think the Clippers actually. I think they pretty easily attack because what do you do with Zubats? Like we just saw it with the Lakers. He isn't nearly as effective in hedges and switches. Like
Right.
Luka was cooking it. You can't play drop against Steph. So what do you do with Zubats? And then it's like they're back. Like, do they go to Ben Simmons? Like, I don't know. I think the Clippers are a pretty good matchup for the Warriors. I was thinking about Denver because I think they can't guard Denver, but Denver also can't guard them. I feel like. So I was looking at them. In terms of, I think the Lakers are a pretty bad matchup for the Warriors too. And I'm pretty sure you would agree there, right? Like, you think the Lakers have a pretty decent advantage over the Warriors?
Yeah.
I would say, how do you feel about Memphis versus Golden State? You can't. I don't think you can really play Edie in that series.
I'm also like as high as I am on them in the regular season. I've like been the Memphis like cheerleader, talking about how hey they're guaranteed 50 wins, but like, I'm fairly lower on them. I think in a playoff setting, I think I would take Golden State.
I would like to point out though that as things currently stand, Golden State's path to the conference finals would be Denver and then LA. so it's like I don't think they're gonna get there. But if they get up to 5, no, because then they'd have to face OKC in the second round.
So I
think
think that would be the problem for Golden State is I think all the teams we said they like confidently match up. I would take them over Memphis. I would take them over Houston. I'd take them over the Clippers. Problem is that's 4, 5, 6 right now. The 3 teams that we said, I mean, and then Dallas, but Dallas is out of the picture currently. I mean, barely. Golden State's half a game up on them. But the three of the other 4 teams, they were either, I don't know, or like, they're just a bad matchup, or 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and also like Minnesota, like I think they would match up really well with Minnesota, but Minnesota's 8. There's no way they face Minnesota. Here's one thing I will say. I do think the Lakers and the Nuggets both have a pretty comfortable advantage over the Warriors, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for the Warriors to sneak out of a series against either of those teams just because of the firepower they have with Steph and then the defensive versatility, as you mentioned, with Jimmy and Draymond. So ideally, you get 6, Memphis bumps back up to 3, and you get past Memphis, then you face like an LA or a Denver.
In round 2, and you hold off on OKC.
And then again, also, I don't want to make it sound like we just assume Golden State would make it past Memphis with ease. Like, Memphis could very easily knock out Golden State. That's just kind of where the West is just so competitive. That's just kind of like
Grizzlies, T-Grizzly. I was trying to find like a third Grizzly pun and say Warriors in 6, but I couldn't think of one on the fly.
Dude. Grizzly Bear, Yogi Bear, Yogi Ferrell, Warriors in 6.
Warriors in 6 against Memphis. That's funny. I do want to say this about Golden State against Denver in a playoff series. To your point, I don't think Denver can guard them at all.
Right.
Because again, one, like, what do you do with Jokic? Like, I'm not even running the motion stuff against Denver. We're gonna put Jokic in spread pick and roll 45 times a game and make you guard it. And then if there's any trio like that, I would feel, you know what? Let's just run it. Let's see. Like defensively, and you talked about like the little adjustments they can make. Steve Kerr, Draymond, Jimmy in a playoff series, like I think they could like throw.
And Denver's lack of shooting.
And Denver's like a shooter. I think they could throw enough different looks at Denver to where you can like make them uncomfortable. And you, in your words, like sneak out of that series or eke out that series, basically.
And you know what else about like the Steph pick and roll thing? I think one thing I've loved about the Warriors since the Jimmy trade is the flexibility you have with you can do either Jimmy or Draymond as the screener, and then put the other one in the dunker, and both are threats to screen, roll, and make the short roll pass. So you can't really do the
inverted pick and roll with Jimmy and stuff. Like,
yeah, that too. But I'm thinking like because my mind immediately went to when you said what do you do with Jokic? I'm thinking like pre-switch, but then they're just gonna like switch the screener. They're gonna switch the screener because then it's
like okay.
because if you pre-switch, somehow, some way, you're gonna end up with Jokic on Jimmy, and that's a blow by every single time.
And then like you're risking putting Jokic in foul trouble because Jimmy can kind of foul bait a little bit. Or eventually, like you said, it's going to be blow by city, containing drives. We're going to over-rotate.
To be fair, Jimmy did say during the 2023 finals that Jokic is one of the best defenders in the league. I don't know if you remember that. So maybe Jimmy doesn't attack Jokic. Maybe he's a little...
He has too much respect for him.
A little intimidator with Jokic. I remember the quote was like, yeah, everyone talks about Jokic's offense, but what they don't talk about is that he's turned into one of the best defenders in the league or something like that.
I was so
and
nasty.
All the Nuggets fans were like, yes, it's here.
Like, all right, guys.
Let's move on, though. I also want to talk about, in my opinion, my favorite young core in the league right now. Not the best young core, just my personal favorite to watch this season, the Portland Trailblazers, man. Dude, I think Anthony Simons is a really fun offensive player. He's also bought in defensively. He's been working his tail off. Scoot Henderson has really come into his own. The efficiency in the jump shot is starting to come around. That's another guy. Tumani Kamara is already like a top 12 defender in the league. Probably will make an all-defensive team. Donovan Clingan's already a top 10 drop defender in the league, even though he fouls out in like 15 minutes. Shout out to Donovan Clingan and what he does as a rim protector. Also, I don't know if you saw that nasty pass Donovan Clingan had the other day to a cutter out of the pinch post. Beautiful stuff. Got that from the UConn offense, using him as like a passing hub, things like that. Rob Williams III is still there. DeAndre Ayton's been dominating. That's my guy always. I love DeAndre Ayton for all the hate he gets. I think he's still a really good player. Shaedon Sharp just had the greatest dunk in NBA history. I mean, dude, the Trailblazers have a lot going for them. How do you feel about Portland's young core? Because I'm a fan, man. I try not to miss. And also the one thing. Sorry to I asked you a question then kept going. This is kind of my thing.
Go ahead.
But Portland always plays mad late, and they're always the only game on. So I find myself catching so many Portland games because it's like that's the only game on at the time. But yeah, let's go. Let's rewind back like 30 seconds before I continued. How have you felt about Portland's young core this season?
They played really, really good basketball for it feels like a month now, and maybe even a little bit longer. To your point, they kind of just bought in defensively. And I'm really, really curious to see where this thing kind of goes heading into the summer. I think this is a really, really important summer. Before we kind of dive into some of their individual players, this is a really important summer for getting the rebuild right, because you have Scoot entering year 3, which I feel like if year 2 is an important year for NFL quarterbacks, think like Bryce Young had a weird start to year 2, but middle of the year 2, you're like, yeah, that's the guy, right? Let's build around that. There's Joe Burrow's year 2, took him to the Super Bowl, et cetera. I feel like that's year 3 for NBA guards at the very least. You want to see something. I mean, you really need to see something beforehand. You had last year was year 3 for Jalen Green. You had that insane month of March that got you to believe. I think that's priority number 1. Scoot Anderson entering year 3, we need to see that he's a guy, right? That's important. I mean, even Jaden Ivey this year 3 was breaking out before he had the really, really unfortunate injury. You need to find Alex Chauncey, the guy for the future. I'm still kind of skeptical, but I think he's got them to buy in enough to where you can have that conversation, and it would all the way surprise me if he's back. Over the past 15 games, they're 3rd in defensive rating. In overall net rating, they're 6th in the league in net rating over the past 15 games. So Chauncey's got him bought in, and now I think you got to really organize the core because you have a lot of really, really fun players here. Like you mentioned, I think you wrote off a 10-man rotation. But are we keeping DeAndre in here long term? What are we doing with Anthony Simons? I feel like the logical next step, if we're talking about progressing with Scoot and right now, where's their like what's their like projected pick? If the plan is Scoot, and you're looking at right now in terms of odds, the 11th pick in the draft. What are we doing? So I feel like the logical next step is we're trading Anthony Simons, getting something for. I could be wrong. Curious to see what you think. So this is a really, really important summer because if they get this right, Tyler, they get the summer right, they could be like last year's Houston next year, where they're the pain in the ass 40-win team that you don't want to see. That's basically what they are right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and also we didn't even talk about two really important pieces to the puzzle too. I think one is pretty much
Jeremy Grant, Rob Will on the roster.
I was just gonna say pretty much every contender in the league would want to trade for Jeremy Grant, so that's a guy you can move and probably get some assets. Also, we didn't talk about their best player this season. Denny Avdia is getting dangerously close to being like an all-star caliber player. I don't know if you've caught like much of this guy's play, but dude. He's a 6'9" ball handler who creates contact in a way that only like Giannis does. Mm-hmm. Like he's going into defenders' chests, and I think it's kind of a flaw. It's a strength and a flaw at the same time because I think he gets to the line at a really good rate. He creates separation on drives a lot. He gets a lot of good floaters and layup looks. Also, that forces the defense to collapse, which creates kick-out opportunities. I also think it's a flaw in the sense that he relies very heavily on the contact. So if he doesn't get it, he launches himself into really weird drives. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, what do I do now? And then I turn it over or I get a bad shot. The three-point shot is coming around for Denny. He's already a good defender.
They have a bunch of good, not to cut you off, they have like a solid core to build around in terms of good, versatile defenders.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I also think Scoot is like not a bad defender at all already. Like he already plays hard at the point of attack and things like that. And then Donovan Clingan and drop, Rob Williams as a low man. Like, yeah, you've got a lot of stuff to work with. And dude, Denny, I'm waiting to see if it's a processing issue because it's like I think he gets tunnel vision on drives and I think he relies on contact. And sometimes that is like a sign that a player just doesn't process the game as quickly as you'd want from like an initiator. Mm-hmm. But it could just be a matter of like figuring out the decision making. And then it's like maybe 2 years down the line, he's finding the kick out pass more. He's creating cleaner drives while avoiding contact and things like that. And then you just have this 6'9" transition freak who can kind of do everything on both ends. Like, that's kind of sounds like an all-star caliber player to me. I don't know if he'll get there, but you're seeing the flashes more and more. He just had a 30-point triple-double in their last game. Like, that's a dude.
Yeah. That's a guy. I think going back to Scoot really, really fast, I think Scoot's ability to just put elite pressure on the rim. He's improved his rim field goal percentage from this year to last year by 7%. He went from 47% at the rim last season to 54% at the rim this season while increasing his rim frequency. 27% of his shot attempts came at the rim last season. 31% of them are coming at the rim this year, averaging 15 drives per 75 possessions as well. I think they have a really, really solid core to build around. And like I said, man, like Scoot continues to get efficient. They nail the summer, then Portland's having a really, really fun rebuild. It's fun to see that they're starting to put some of the pieces together here later on in the year.
Dude, and one last thing I want to mention on Portland. When I made my Toumani Camara video, I said the one thing I said was like, I think the big determining factor will be if the three-point shot gets at least competent, then you just have like an S-tier role player. And since that video, he went from like 34% from three to over 38%. Like he's been shooting like 40-something% from three since I made that video. And it's like, dude, if Toumani Camara is just a good shooter, you got your like wing of the future.
Right.
Because that guy's already one of the best defenders in the league in year two.
Yeah, Toumani's insane. They have a fun squad to build around.
Absolutely. Another guy I want to talk about. He's back. He's been back for a while, actually. Let me read some numbers, and I want to know if the viewers, I know you know who I'm talking about, but I want to see if the viewers and listeners know who I'm talking about when I read off these stats.
Woohoo.
Since January 1st, so the calendar year of 2025, he's played 24 games. He is shooting 45% from 3 on 7 attempts a game.
Cook.
He's averaging 19 points, 9 assists, 2 steals.
Woo! How many turnovers? Were those turnovers?
1.5 turnovers. Woo! 1.5 turnovers per game. He's plus 120, which is about plus 6 per game.
Woo!
Tyrese Haliburton, ladies and gentlemen, is back.
Not to cut you off, what's so funny about Tyrese Haliburton is like Reese's stat line, the one bad game, the one awful stat line game he's had is against Tumani Kamara and the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, I mean, exhibit A of this podcast episode, man. Yeah, no, you take the floor, dude. Like, Tyrese Haliburton, Pacers, looking really good, looking really dangerous. Like, what are your thoughts, man?
This is basically the team that I was parading about all summer long and then made me look like a complete jackass, excuse my language, for the first 30 games of the year. Because, again, I'm going to keep bringing this up. Cavs fans, sorry. I said all summer that was it a big chance? No, but I put them in the if everything goes right scenario, like literally everything. It's a 0.6% chance they can win a title. It was because of Tyrese Haliburton. I thought Tyrese Haliburton as the engine was so good to where I thought there was a very, very micro chance of them winning a title. I think you put a very similar post or tweet, I don't know what to call it now, on Twitter X, basically about those stats, and I responded to it. I was like, "Look, this is one of the most efficient playmakers in NBA history. There's not a single pass that he can't make, and Haliburton playing or getting back to basically, being fully healthy, close to what we saw last year is so important because he's just able to push the pace in transition." Or in early offense, rather, and get these guys early looks in transition or get them looks in like early ball screen action. And we kind of saw it late in the playoffs and early this season that like when they ran their screening action, like you could just switch. He couldn't get downhill like whatsoever, which kind of just stalled out their offense and where a lot of it's just derived off of, making decisions off the catch, but off of decisions made by Hallie. If he can't get downhill and teams are just switching all their actions, then we're kind of screwed. Hallie being back enables your Andrew Nembhards, your Aaron Nesmiths, your Obi Toppins, who had a notably really, really good playoff run enough to where it got him paid. Pascal's great, and he was an all-star, deservedly so, but it even makes his job even easier. It enables the hell out of Miles Turner. You have TJ McConnell, who I guess it doesn't really impact him, but you have your Ben Shepherds. Like you could go on. This is a really, really deep team, but at the engine of the car and the heartbeat of their offense is Tyrese Haliburton's ability to be efficient as hell. Like we talk all the time about Jalen Brunson's ability to just not turn the ball over. I mean, yeah, like the fact that you're going to get an elite shot every trip down the floor. I don't care about their defense. I'm not sure where they've been at since January 1st, but they have an ability in a playoff setting we saw last year to just flat out overwhelm you with the amount of offensive power, with the amount of offensive firepower they have, and Haliburton being back is super, super important for them.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the defense in a sec, but I want to focus on what you said about the Haliburton ball screens and just putting constant pressure. I think Haliburton is always going to have those flaws as like a guy who just applies pressure as a scorer and like can break down the defense inside the arc. Like, no, you're not going to see Haliburton isolate on an island and get to a mid-range bucket. You're not going to see him generate a bunch of free throws. He barely gets to the line. He's not that type of player. He's not the type of player where it's like, I'm going to slow down, I'm going to break down the defense methodically. He's more of that like, okay, run. The way I pressure the defense is going to be the defense can never get set because I'm going to be constantly starting another action. Like they'll run 3-4 actions in the same possession. And it's like, Haliburton, turn the corner. You have a floater or a pass. You don't have anything, reset, relocate. And then it's like, I come off 4 screens in the same possession. Now I have a pull-up 3. I'm going to make that at a 45% clip. Oh, now the defense is switching. Now my big man has a mismatch. I'm going to dump it into Miles Turner. Oh, the defense put 2 on the ball. I'm going to get rid of it instantly, and my team's going to have an advantage for the rest of the possession. Right now, the Pacers, Tyrese Haliburton's running 16 ball screens per game that lead directly to either a pass or a shot or a turnover. 16 a game, and they are generating 1.16 points per possession. Like 1.16, I can't even fathom how efficient that is. Shea is at 1.1. Mitchell and Garland are both at 1.12. Dame's at 1.1. Steph Curry's at 1.1.
Out of players with at least 100, hold on. My bad. Keep going. I don't know why it's acting weird for me. Hold on.
No, but yeah, like point stands. Like Haliburton pick and rolls lead to, like you said, there's never a turnover. Basically, it's always a good shot, and the Pacers have so many offensive weapons that it's like a Haliburton ball screen is just good offense automatically, and it doesn't matter if he can't ISO. It doesn't matter if he can't post up, because the best offense is the offense that gets your team the best shot. Haliburton won't put up the gaudy 30-point triple-double. He won't have those, like... I'm trying to think of, like, a really good way to word this. Like, when you watch Brunson in the clutch, right? It's like you see it in your face. He's going to walk you down. He's going to isolate, and he's going to get a bucket. And you watch Haliburton, and it doesn't have that same, like, mystique. And so it takes a different type of appreciation to look at what Haliburton does for his team and be like, oh my gosh, he's generating so much offense. It just looks different, and we're not used to it because there's never really been anything like it.
Steph Curry 1.0. Steph Curry ball screens 1.09. Brunson 1.094. Cade 1.06. LeBron 1.06. Anthony Edwards 1.06. Chris Paul 1.05. Trae Young 1.04.
1.16 for Haliburton, dude.
Tatum,
it's not like
1.04.
Shout out to Turner.
I'm sorry.
And shout out to Siakam. But it's not like Halliburton's playing with these, like, this premier screener.
God damn,
right?
Ja sucks. My bad. That was loud.
Ja does not suck. Ja does not suck, Grizzlies fans. That was an outburst. He definitely read a bad pick and roll number. But the Grizzlies don't run pick and roll. The Grizzlies don't run pick and roll. The Grizzlies don't run pick and roll, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't count.
It doesn't matter. Grizzly fans, that was an outburst. I apologize.
For a second, I want to talk about the Pacers' defense because I do think they're way better defensively than last year.
Yeah.
I think there's a few working parts. I think Andrew Nembhard is just a legitimately Nembhard's a legitimately really, really good point of attack defender at this point. Siakam is having his best defensive season, I'd say, in like 3 years in terms of activity and then what he brings versatility-wise and length-wise. Turner, I think, is a very flawed defender, but at the very least is giving you some good rim protection, right? Like, he's Miles Turner. He's going to block shots. He's a big body. Nesmith, really good defender. Haliburton buy-in, to me, has been a big difference. Like, I think Haliburton, in the way he's been used as, like, a low man, like, every now and then you'll see him pick up a block at the rim. You'll see him jump some lanes, get aggressive. It's not like Haliburton's adding value. He's still definitely, like, a liability, but it's different than last year. In terms of, like, he's making an effort. It's kind of like the leap I feel like Trae Young made over the last couple of years, where it's like Trae Young was just outright the worst defender in the league of any rotation player playing, like, serious minutes. And then it was like, okay, I'm always going to be super limited physically, but how can I find a way to, like, get myself involved in this coverage, make a play on the ball, things like that, like draw a charge. And I think Haliburton's starting to figure that out in a way that makes him less of a detriment. So now you have all of these other working parts for the Pacers defense. You mentioned TJ McConnell, another guy. Obi Toppin, I think, is another flawed defender, but an athlete, a big athlete. So I do think the Pacers would, like, I don't think they can defend, like, Boston or Cleveland in a playoff series.
Sure.
But over the course of these 82 games, they've been a solid defensive team, in my opinion. I don't know what the numbers say on that. I could be off, but I think they've been pretty good defensively.
13th in defensive rating over the last 15 games, and on the season, Indiana is Wow, the Lakers are 13th in defense now. What a turn. Indiana's 20th on the year.
Okay, so definitely on the upswing, and definitely still not like a great defensive team, but good enough to where like they're one of the 5 to 6 best offenses in the league. Haliburton, in my opinion, I don't think I would put him there right now. In my opinion, does have a pretty strong argument to be the second best point guard in the East. How do you feel about that? I think the way I look at it
is Cade 1 for you.
No, I was gonna say
Brunson,
for me,
Brunson.
So I was gonna say for me the clear number 1 is Brunson, and that might be a hot take, but that's just like I value Brunson's skill set a lot. I think he's pretty clearly the best guard in the East.
How's that a hot take?
I don't know, dude. The circles I'm in on Twitter, somehow I always end up with people that are just low on Brunson. I don't know what it is. Brunson's a freaking he's awesome.
Like if the hot take is clear number 1. Okay, I mean, maybe, but he's 1. He's 1.
Okay, so I got Brunson as a clear 1.
Okay.
And then
I would probably agree, but okay.
I was talking about this earlier. My number 2 right now is Garland. That's who I think is number 2. But I think it's this really big tier where it's like Garland, Cade, Haliburton, Dame. And then I'd probably drop off to Trae Young. Because I'm not over Trae Young, but I don't think he's as good as those guys right now.
I think it's just the scoring output, honestly.
Right, it's the efficiency, and then it's like the lack of an off-ball game, the lack of defense. Like I think he's out of that group, he's by far the least efficient. I mean, not by far compared to Cade, but I still think he's less efficient
honestly
than Cade.
Just like he's honestly comparable impact-wise offensively to like a Maxey now. Like I feel like that Maxey, Trae, LaMelo will kind of just be grouped together.
Perfect transition. Who, by the way, Maxey has been playing out of his mind this season. In the last like month or two, just like rattling off 30-point games like it's nothing. But there's some other stuff going on with Philly right now, so I'll let you take the stage because I don't really feel like talking about it.
So Joel Embiid, getting season-ending surgery. Sucks that. I mean, for one, first of all, why are we playing Embiid? Like, why are we playing Embiid when the season was kind of lost from the beginning? You saw that Nick Nurse video where it was like, oh man, Embiid's he's fighting, because I think the question was. It was something about like Embiid's offensive positioning and how he wasn't as aggressive on the block or something. I'm paraphrasing, but it was getting at that. And I think Nick was like, well, yeah, he's battling through some stuff. I think we could all see it. I'm like, okay, why the hell is he playing with like his track record? So right now, the Sixers have the 7th pick currently. They're projected to have the 7th pick in the draft. The problem with that is that pick would not go to them. That pick would go to the Oklahoma City Thunder if it falls out of the top 6. So, Tyler, proposing a question to you. Right now, what do you do? It feels like Philly is, like, dare I say, in a lose-lose situation right now where if you tank, which I would honestly just support it and say, yes, be bad. Be bad for the last 20 games. You paid Paul George all this money. Maxey, I don't want to say he's maxed out. I don't want to say he's maxed out. That was bad. But I don't ever really see Maxey like getting to that top tier of guards in the West. I mean, which is really just Brunson. I think he's a really, 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 really good guard. But I think the peak of Maxey is like top of that second group, maybe and this is gonna sound like so disingenuous, but like I was about to say maybe like Dame range, like Dame is a top 15 player in the league. But I don't think he's ever like a 1A, basically where I'm getting at. Like I said, you pay Paul George all his money, you have no depth, this team sucks. And then Embiid is like just can't stay healthy. Can't get a healthy playoff run from Embiid. Some of that's injury luck. Some of that is just Embiid at this point. What do you do? Talk to me. What do you do if you're Philly?
I don't know. I don't have the answer for you, and that's why I'm not a GM. I really don't know where you go from here. I will say before I get into possible philosophies, I want to say how crazy it is that Paul George shut down the podcast to compete for a title, and then like 2 days later, Embiid gets shut down. And now, how awkward is that? Because now Paul George can just go back to podcasting, but it's like he doesn't want to like admit defeat. Like, what do you do if you're Paul George now? But
what's that first episode back on the pod like? Well,
right. On a more serious note, though,
pretty clearly we're not competing for a title.
On a more serious note, though, I do want to take a moment to just talk about the Embiid thing, because like I really hope he's able to get back to form, because it's looking like he might not ever get back to what we saw. And I just want to give like a level of appreciation for one of the best players I've ever seen. Like 2024 Embiid before the injury was one of the most absurdly dominant two-way forces I've ever seen in the sport. And I've watched a lot of old basketball. Like I've watched the Wilts, the Bills, the Hakeems, the Kareems, the Bill Waltons. Joel Embiid is like of that class of like this all-time dominant two-way big. And it just never got to actualize in the way it should have because of mostly injuries. Like there was some playoff like stuff in there where Embiid did have chances to actualize in a different way, but it was mostly injury stuff and then like team related stuff. In terms of just the pure talent level of a guy and the skill set, like dude, we're talking about a 7'1", 280-pound behemoth who was handling like a guard, pulling up like a wing, shooting like 50% from mid-range and 37% from three on volume. Like the GOAT foul jar who makes 88% of his free throws, sleepwalking to an efficient 35 3/4 for like 10 straight games, while also being a defensive player of the year candidate. Like, dude, and then took the leap as a passer and was making like no-look skip passes, and it's like, dude, Joel Embiid deserves his flowers, man, because it's so brutal looking back at how he was discussed during these years and how his career is probably going to be remembered. Like, I was never a huge Embiid guy, but in terms of just appreciating his game, I think we owe that to him, because what he did, especially starting basketball like age 16 or 17, what he turned into is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Going back, though, to just like fit the state Philly's in, I think Philly hit really big on two things. I think they hit on Yabusele, bringing him over. He's been really, really good. And I think they hit really hard on the Jared McCain pick, because he was looking so good before the injury, and I'm hoping he just gets back to doing that. And did you see the clip of him studying Steph Curry's pregame ritual and watching him like a hawk?
Jared McCain?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not see that, but
right before the Warriors game the other night, he sat there for like 20 minutes and didn't move or look away from Steph and just like watched his whole pregame routine. That's guy's awesome. Dialed. That guy's dialed in, and he has that like skill set, the off-ball movement, the ball handling, and things like that.
Better playmaker that I think he gets credit for.
Yeah, no, Jared McCain's awesome. McCain and Maxey, I think they hit on, and then I think they hit on Yabusele. Everything else has kind of just been like a miss, in my opinion. And so yeah. What'd you say? You said if the pick falls out of the top 6, they don't have it?
If it falls out of the top 6, it goes to OKC.
So it has to be a top 6 pick.
It has to be a top 6 pick.
So yeah, you tank. That's you have to.
Okay.
You have to.
If you tank, I think we've seen enough sample size now that playing 2 timelines doesn't work. Because, okay, hypothetical. You win the lottery.
Get Cooper Flag.
You get Cooper Flag. Does that change anything, or
here's the problem though. There is zero market for Joel Embiid on that contract. He's owed like $300 million.
Yeah.
There's no way.
You're not getting anything for Paul George.
Right. So yeah, the Sixers have put themselves in they've handicapped themselves in a really bad way. But like, I don't know. So I guess you wait. Say you win the lottery and you get Cooper Flag. I think you have to try and trade Paul George. I think that's the first move. Like, you have to.
Like, for literally anything.
Right. Just try and get off that contract, which I don't even think they'd be able to. But maybe, like, a team like the Kings is like, we can get back in the playoffs. Let's get Paul George. Yeah. Like they did with Zach LaVine and DeRozan. But,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. There would have to be a team out there that is like we still see something with this Paul George. We're willing to eat that contract. I don't even think it's possible, but who knows? But then you wait and see how Embiid looks. Because
Okay.
here's the thing. If you have Maxey, McCain, Flag, and then you get like 70% of that last version of Embiid, that's still like a top 12 player on the planet.
Yeah.
And then it's like, if this surgery works and it extends his career, and then it's not like a recurring issue, then you have just like this still really, really good big who, quite frankly, would be a beautiful fit with Cooper Flag's skill set on both ends.
Yeah.
And then it makes the back, because they're both big presences at the rim and versatile, you can mitigate the issues of a Maxey and McCain backcourt.
Yeah.
So I think the move would be get off Paul George if you can, and then wait to see how Embiid looks. Now, if Embiid is just absolutely cooked, I really don't know what the next step is there, because you owe him $300 million. Like, can they retire him? What was that thing I saw where it was like they can medically retire him?
Wait, what?
Did you not see that?
No, again, I've been pretty.
There's like
absent
some
from-
kind of like clause. I don't know if it's in his contract or if it's like a rule with the NBA. But it was like if they like reach out to a certain doctor, they can medically retire Embiid, and then they don't owe him any money.
Wait, hold on. What?
Yeah, and I
Hold
don't know
on.
what that is, but I saw that and I was like, what? Like, there's no way that's real.
Hold on.
And it was the most absurd thing I've ever seen. I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of that.
And I don't think they could like end his career, but they would then get off. They would get off of him entirely, and he'd just become an unrestricted free agent, right? Like I think that's how it works. So then a
So-
team gets him beat on a vet min. Like what?
Hold on, let me see.
It's all fun and games until the 76ers medically retire Embiid, and then he signs with Luka on the Lakers on a vet minimum.
Hold on now.
And then he has a random career rejuvenation, and they have a dynasty.
A random career rejuvenation. Okay, so if Joel Embiid is unable to play starting on February, this is for Keith Smith. Hold on, let me like get the tweet pulled up. So if Joel Embiid is unable to play starting on starting
all
on
good.
February 22nd, 2026, 1 year after his last game, the Sixers could petition for a medical retirement. At that point, an independent doctor selected by the NBA and the NBA Players Association would examine Embiid if agreed he can no longer play. His remaining contract would be wiped off the books for the Sixers.
That's insane. I've never heard of that before this.
That's insane. Somebody in the comments asked if it's wiped at the books. Does that mean he does get paid or just not a cap? He still gets paid. What the hell? That makes no sense. Am I tripping?
No, because they're asking. So they're asking if Embiid is still guaranteed the money, but it doesn't count towards the
It
Sixers
is
payroll,
count towards Sixers. Okay.
which I think would make the most sense. Because you can't just sign a contract and then say, "Yeah, Embiid, you're not getting any of this money." I feel like that would be like very crooked. Like that's got to be illegal, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be some kind of
Yeah.
regulation on that. Like, aren't contracts guaranteed
Yeah, that's
or supposed to be?
supposed to be. Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like I said. I think you're in a lose-lose spot. I think for the purpose of, like you said, trying to get off of Embiid, I guess Cooper could, in some sense, play fill this spot. I'm going very wing based. If I'm Philly, like VJ Edgecombe. I haven't watched enough Ace Bailey to have an opinion, but Ace Bailey.
Let me ask you, like, so if you get Cooper Flag, right? Mm-hmm. Say you have to choose between Maxey and McCain. Which direction do you go? Because I think Maxey's proven himself to where it's like, I don't know if McCain can get to this level. Like, Maxey's a legit
Sure.
all-star. But
I have an argument. I have an argument for going McCain.
Well, I was going to say, McCain, the argument starts with the fact that he's 3 years younger.
Yeah. Not even that. I think the argument is just like, essentially, let's fully like just start over. Let's clean our books. Let's start over. Let's figure this Embiid shit out, and let's start with Jared McCain, Cooper Flagg on cost control contracts for 4 years. Wow, that gives us time to figure out what we're doing with Embiid and what his situation is. Wow, because if he's here, we're still competing, and if he's not here, we can commit to getting McCain, getting Cooper Flagg reps, and building them up to where, again, like you can kind of figure out the Embiid thing while having that in the background. Well, it's Cooper and McCain getting reps, and I mean, now that goes to hell if they don't own their picks in the future. Let me see right quick, because they don't own their picks in the future.
Well, I was gonna say to that point, I think Maxey would get a hell of a haul.
That's what I'm saying.
You would get a hell of a haul, so you would get those picks back. Like, and there's a lot of teams out there that would really, really want Maxey. Like Houston would really, really want Maxey. Dare I say, I was just thinking about this. Like, this just popped in my head as we were talking this out. Like, what if the Grizzlies traded Ja Morant for Tyrese Maxey? Like, that, I feel like that's not out of the realm of possibility. Not that I expect it to happen, and not that I want the Sixers to trade Maxey. Like, I think he is Philly. Like, he embodies Philly.
Yeah.
So well. Like, he's like the face of that city in terms of basketball right now with this way Embiid stuff has come together. So I don't think they should trade Maxey, but I will say, like, you would get a hell of a haul for a 24-year-old all-star level player.
So the problem is with the logic problem with my hypothetical is if the pick doesn't convey to OKC, so like they get their pick for this year's top 6. Then next year it goes from being top 6 protected to top 4 protected. Meaning if it's not in the top 4, it goes to OKC. So basically, one of these years OKC is having your pick, and then if it doesn't convey next year, then in 2027 it's some like weird thing where 2027 regardless you don't have your pick. Because so I mean, unless you're really, really bad again. So I don't know. I think you're in a lose-lose spot. I think you're in a lose-lose spot right now at the very least. That could change as time progresses, but I'm not feeling too great about Philly at the moment.
Yeah, I'm with you. And honestly, I think that's a good place to stop. I think we pretty much covered it. I don't really have much desire to talk more about Philly's situation. If you enjoyed this episode, and if you're still listening, man, we really appreciate it. The support means a lot. Make sure you drop a follow if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. 5-star rating would also help a lot in terms of our growth. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, all that good stuff. Make sure to follow our social media profiles. My stuff is personal, at Tyler Britton _ on all platforms. His Twitter is Sean_DAVI, and his Instagram is Sean_Davis23. If you're looking for YouTube content, my stuff is all under Hoop Venue. You can also find Hoop Venue on all social media platforms, creating all types of content. His stuff is under the Los Angeles Lakers Network and the Sports Headline Show. If you're watching on YouTube, all of those beautiful links will be in the description. Once again, we really appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate all of the great compliments I'm going to get in the comments on my new camera and how phenomenal I look. And we will catch you guys in episode number 31.